Now, the next thing that I'm thinking about doing is finally getting around to implementing diagonal facing direction and diagonal attack animations. I rearranged our tile map, so off camera, I added these. The ones right below are slightly modulated. The head is just bobbing a little bit. This is what I'm going to use for the idle animation. And then I have something kind of similar here with the ghosts as well. The eyes on the ghost are just really awful. It's all awful programmer art, but I'm just going to be placeholder stuff for now. Let's see here. Sprite does not like to stay on the screen at the same time the terminal is on the screen because we cannot have nice things. I can't even select it. Big Atlas index player up left. I think that's fine. I think up left is fine. And then we'll have up left 2. Up left is going to be this guy. So 35, and then up left 2 is 37. So 35, 37. So what we next need to do is presumably go into entity, facing direction, and we need to add some new facing directions. And this is going to break our ability to compile because we have a lot of complete switching done on facing direction. And we'll just use the compiler to guide us here. A lot of stuff that's going to break now. So if was marked as complete, entity JI 563. So here we go on the march through here. We're going to get a facing tile. Okay, let's see. If we go up, we just take this guy. And then if we go left, we take this guy. And we just combine those guys like that, essentially. And this one is render and animation. This is basically just kind of a get facing tile thing again, I think. My position here, and then EV facing prop, I think. And get rid of that now. Render entity with facing direction. So what we're doing here is computing the displacement. Okay, and this displacement, we're going to have to do something angular now instead of linear. Yeah, it's a 0.7. That's what it is. So it's going to make a sine of 45. So for up left, we're going to have the dest x, this guy here, and then up is going to be the displacement here. Let's call this the diagonal modifier. We're just going to make it 0.7 for now. So displacement times 0.7, and this guy times 0.7. Yeah, we could probably just perform this displacement times 0.7 once. I guess angular displacement, right? Diagonal. This would be linear. Cool. And so diagonal displacement would just be linear displacement times 0.7. Get entity tile index. Case, upper left, if animation timer left prop, we have the animation now cooldown divided by 2. If it's greater than that, then we have the big atlas index player. We are going to have, I guess, upper left, and this will just be upper left 2. I think we have to do the same here for the ghost. So we'll just copy paste all this stuff. We have not done the ray asset stuff yet. I guess we need to do that. Might as well just do it right now. Try to compile this again. Unlike identifier, big atlas index, player left, upper left 2. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. These guys do not appear to be getting a diagonal facing direction. I think that's because we do not set the diagonal facing direction. Yeah, so we need to come in here and update this. Get new facing direction. Okay, I need to think a little bit harder about this for a second. So we have priority here, right? We always want to be prioritizing the left or right facing direction. In the case that we have both here, I guess it doesn't matter anymore because we have diagonals now. Yeah, so we no longer have priority because we have diagonals. If we have gone one to the left and we have gone one up, the facing direction is now up left. And indeed, there I go. So now we kind of have a little more natural walking. And let's see here if this guy, yeah, so when the guy above me, when he attacks me, right, he now attacks me diagonally, thankfully. We don't do any of the rotations on the sprites or anything like this. The scratch kind of just naturally aligns, and he also like moves toward me as well. Now I can look up and to the right, and I can attack him there. I haven't done again any of the rotations on the sprite, so it looks weird. One thing I want to do is add the ability to change my facing direction without taking a turn. Like I'm able to do that when I get boxed in. So for example, if I can change my facing direction here, right? Left, down, left, down. I can even go, oh, actually, so I cut through them when I went down left, but I can go left, I can go down. By the way, I kind of like the head bob animation. I might make the head bob animation the default for looking left and looking down as well, because right now he kind of like bobs his legs, which is more of a walking animation. So right now we just implement controls with one, or actions with one button, which is Z. So I press Z. Oh, did those guys all move at the same? Oh, that's interesting. Wait, they like moved at the same time. They should be going one after another. Just curious, they all moved at the same time. So I have some kind of latent defect there. But anyway, I'm thinking of implementing another key, like it can be the C key, for example. So we have ZXY on the standard US keyboard in the bottom left. I'll implement the C key, and when the C key is held down, I'll highlight the tile that the player is facing, and I'll allow the player to pass inputs to change the facing direction. It's kind of difficult to explain it without showing something, so I can actually draw something really simply right now. We won't implement the changing direction, we'll just implement the highlight direction control. I'm thinking to do this, we go up into entity here, and we add a new entity state, which is selecting facing direction. The reason I add a new state is because we are going to transition the player into this new state on some specific input when a key is held down. And I don't want to propagate input to the render system. I'd rather just propagate a property. And so let's see, let's go in here now to, if it's game, so I just call it select FD for now, I guess. And this will be keyboard C. So then if we go into main, the event key down is going to track whether or not the C key is pressed or not. So on key down and on key up, this event will fire in both cases, and we will set this Boolean flag correctly. So we'll go back into update states here. I call it update timers and states, but maybe I should just call it like react to timers. Update timers and react accordingly. This is a complete right here. That means that we do need to handle selecting facing direction, but there's really nothing for us to do in selecting facing direction. So we'll just leave this essentially as an empty case. Now we also need select facing direction here, although we should assert false for this, because nobody but the player should be selecting facing direction. Nobody but the player should be selecting facing direction. That kind of suggests to me that it might not be appropriate to make this an entity state, maybe not in the ECS. But anyway, it's actually going to become an else if input action now, so we won't allow selecting facing direction and performing an action on the same frame. This is actually going to be interesting because if I implement this in here, if I implement select facing direction in here, what that means is that the other entities are going to get to take turns while I rotate the facing direction. And if an action animation is playing, we will not perform the following loop down here, which will protect us from a state change out of attacking into selecting facing direction. So we can get into facing direction safely, but how do we get out of facing direction safely? Maybe I'm just pigeonholing my thinking by saying that this loop only updates timers. Maybe we don't want this to be part of the state. Maybe we kind of one-off this on the input layer. Let's go down to movement here. This might be how it works actually right here. So if input selecting facing direction, let's get rid of the selecting facing direction thing for a moment. Let's just see how this plays out without state propagation. Selecting FD, let's get rid of that. Where do we set the facing direction? Oh, right here. We always set it regardless of whether the player can move or not. So I think here what we do essentially is we always set the facing direction to the proposed facing direction, and then we break. And that should be enough. I can test that right now. So if I hold down C, okay, C is now performing an action. Action, okay, select FD. So I set the wrong input here. Now if I rebuild, I should be able to hold down C and just modulate, yeah. So now I can modulate my facing direction without anybody else doing anything. So this is very simple. Really the cleanest way, like the least intrusive way to propagate this to the render system, in fact, is to just pass the flag that we're selecting facing direction. But we would only use that for the player. And so that feels really weird to kind of pass in this render entity with facing direction. This one thing is kind of very load bearing right now. I might even want to split up render to multiple passes. But for now, I guess we just do something like this, like just to prove that this thing works here. But here, we'll take it all the way to the end, very rough, and then I'll think harder about it. Okay, so we propagate it through like that. That's the render here, selecting FD, and then we come back into game. When we call render here, and then he updates NV render, we pass in input. Select FD. You know what? I just had another idea because I don't like how this is shoehorned in. So I could just have another render call here. The ideas are kind of popping into my head as I'm saying this. So we would pass a little bit extra information to the render system, and then the render system would incorporate that information at a high level, at pretty high up the call stack, when it selects its specific render routines for certain UI elements. So I think we would move health bar into UI. We would move this tile selector thing into UI. There was a lot of repeated logic with the source and destination selection stuff and the index fetching and whatnot. Maybe we can share that. It'll come together as we have more examples in hand. We'll call it render tile border. It's selecting facing direction, then render some tile border here. And so we'll get rid of selecting facing direction here. We won't pass that into the render system. Now we're basically just left with drawing a specific source destination, but we're going to be rendering a tile border, which means all we need is some tile index. We don't need an entity view anymore. Instead, we'll get a position. So we'll say, we'll call this tile. So that's going to get us the screen position in pixels of the tile, and we don't need an atlas index. Instead, we're going to draw a border. In order to do that, just a border around the tile. I don't really know how to do that in SDL. I think what we need to do is draw each side individually. Render fill rect. Fill a rectangle on the current rendering target with the drawing color at subpixel precision. I think that's basically what we want for the borders here. Let's go to render tile border right here. So we have the facing tile is this guy. The EV position prop and the EV facing prop, that's going to be, we're going to return our facing tile from get facing tile. So instead of making it a view, we'll now just pass facing tile in here. and come back to render tile border. It's just going to be tile pause pixels. So we'll have 0, 0 for X and Y, I guess, or 0, 0.0 for X and Y. And then for width, we are going to have the tile width, which is going to be this Atlas tile with pix. And for height, we're going to have 2, just kind of a 2 pixel thing. We also need to set the render color. So it kind of looks like this guy. Sorry, we'll call defer on set SDL render draw color. This is going to run at the end of the scope here, and it's going to restore the draw color to what we saved off in RGBA. Oh, there's no dest. It's only source. Let's call it rect, I guess. So this rect, in fact, is not going to be 0, 0. This is going to be tile pause pix X and tile pause pix Y, and then we'll render that, and then we'll repeat that for the left, the right, and the bottom to just get the coordinates correct. And we need to no longer declare these guys. We're not declaring them. We're just updating their values. And in fact, we can even do it like this, I believe, because we already know the type. Okay, so now if I hold down C, this is kind of what I wanted to draw. 2 pix might actually be too thick. Let's go border width. Border width is going to be just 1.0. This looks a little bit nicer. I mean, when I say nice, it's programmer art nice. Cool. So now we can select our facing direction. Oh, that's interesting. So when they attack me, like my health bar, it's drawn under them. Yeah, and this is a consequence of the player and everything associated with the player being rendered first. Selecting the facing direction with entities is still pretty visible. You can tell that the box is being rendered below the entity, which I think is fine. I do like that. I could always render above the entity and just set some opacity. How do we set the opacity in render tile border? Maybe it should be 127, I guess. That actually does not look opaque at all. Did I do that correctly? Oh, use set render draw blend mode to specify the alpha channel is used. So it's probably blend mode none right now. Yeah, RGBA, dest RGBA is the equals the source RGBA. I guess we need to get render blend mode first because I want to save this off. This will be at 64, make that uninitialized, and then we will say OK is going to be our SDL3 fit render draw blend mode on the platform renderer and our pointer to our blend mode. And then we will defer the SDL set render draw blend mode. If we come in here and I press C, okay, so now we're blending. Cool. Now it looks pretty awful, but yeah, we are indeed blending this guy. And because I actually, yeah, you can tell the corners are a little bit darker because I'm drawing the border of the rectangle over itself. I'm kind of composing this out of 4 sides. I'm drawing the border under the entities, so blending doesn't really make any sense right now, but we can actually hoist this out. If we just do this guy here, we can basically make an entity view on the player really easily because the player always has a fixed index. You can kind of tell where my feet meet the entity's head. We're drawing over it here. Thanks so much for everybody who joined. I appreciate you guys swinging by. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Peace.